Greetings, this is Tariq X with National Network View. Tonight, NNV Weekly contributor Nina Shabazz will discuss her research on historically Black beaches and the importance of reviving their history. We have songwriter, artist, pianist, and entrepreneur Aishah Kareem sitting down with us for an interview on her musical background and business endeavors. Last, we will sit down with Greg McKenzie, co-chair of the African Liberation Day Planning Committee, to speak about the upcoming African Liberation Day celebration. Before we get into those top news, let's do a recap of the current events we've covered recently. NNV News anchor Rosalind Parks spoke with weekly contributor Brian E. Muhammad on the ceasefire agreement reached in the Middle East, Israel-Palestinian conflict.
In recent weeks, Israel has dropped a missile, sent in its military troops, and clashed with Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and Gaza. But now there is a ceasefire. How did a ceasefire agreement come about?
Well, first of all, it was tremendous pressure from around the world, people in the streets for one, and also, from other nations because of the lopsided bombardment of the occupied forces of Israel versus, rock throwing Palestinians. And so there was pressure to, come to some kind of ceasefire in the situation, with Egypt being the main broker of this ceasefire. But they were the ones that did the negotiations to bring this about.
Rosalind Parks also had David Muhammad with Genesis Construction Training Company on to give information on the different building trades in their training program.
Now, how did you get your start? What schools did you attend to get into the construction business?
Well, my first entry into the industry, I didn't go to school at all initially. It was an opportunity for me when I just decided, to commit my life to righteousness, I should say, or the nation. It was a concern of mine. What am I going to do? Because I didn't have any skills, any trade, any profession. I didn't have a way to be able to provide for myself. But again, the moment I decided that I was going to change my life, that's when an opportunity came for me to join what is called the Construction Coalitions, which is a community organization that enforces some of the compliance laws from city, state, and federal.
Tariq X gave insight on project separation and the need for Black people in America to do for self and create their own independent government.
What is project separation?
Well, project separation at its core is the political ideology of the Nation of Islam. And its number one goal is to develop strategy to achieve point number 4 of what the Muslims want, which is we want our people whose parents or grandparents were descendants of slaves to be allowed to establish their own separate state of territory, a separate state of territory of their own. I think current events have shown, and our past history have shown, that that's absolutely been a nightmare. And if we do a very surface level analysis of the history of this nation and how this nation was established and came into being, we'll see that separation is not only attainable and achievable, but in certain cases, and I will argue that in our case, it is absolutely the best and only solution.
NNV Weekly contributor Dr. Akili spoke with Rosalind on the effects the COVID-19 pandemic has had on the economy this past year.
How have the companies who have produced vaccines continued to profit in light of the recent clip that we just watched?
Yes, I think it's we need to note the fact that in general, a lot of the physicians around the country that actually do immunizations in their offices, they get their vaccinations from either state or city organizations. And so there's this ideology that there's not a lot of money in the vaccination part of pharmaceutical companies. But I think what we have seen with the reports is that the stock market numbers, as far as especially the ones that we've been hearing about, Pfizer, Moderna, biotech, these companies, their stock market prices have soared. And so that's one aspect that the pharmaceutical companies have made plenty of money.
For the 1-year anniversary of the killing of George Floyd, Rosalind had on Brother Thomas X to discuss the impact of the killing and the continued killing of Black people by police.
Today marks the first anniversary of George Floyd's murder, which led to unprecedented marches, social unrest, and calls for police reform. What effect did Chauvin's conviction have on the recent federal indictments against Chauvin and the other officers?
The recent convictions, as far as it relates to Chauvin's and those who, the other officers that were with him, right, whose trials have been pushed back for another year, right, back to 2022. They were supposed to be this year in August. But however, those indictments, or the indictment on Chauvin's, it just shows the enemy, I would say, that more caution has to be taken. However, there's still no severe penalty that will be given. Because even when Chauvin's got indicted, one of the first things that came up from his lawyers was the appeal.
Gardener Kenya Simmons gave us an update on her garden, the different varieties of vegetables and the herbs she is growing, as well as the planting methods she uses.
You also have a wellness center, and please forgive me if I am mispronouncing the name. I have it as Kirinyaga Wellness Center. How did you come up with that name, and what are some of the things that you do at your wellness center?
Okay, well, Kirinyaga also translates to Kenya, from the country Kenya, and so I just figured I would like to do Kirinyaga, because the reason why they changed it from Kirinyaga to Kenya is because the colonizer couldn't pronounce it. And I remember growing up as a child in a predominantly white community, it was hard for them to pronounce Kenya too. So I was like, well, let's just go ahead and name it Kirinyaga. And at the Wellness Center, we do massages, because I'm a massage therapist as well. And I believe in holistic health. I believe that everything is intertwined. So learning how to grow your own food, learning how to reconnect your spirit back to the earth, learning to do your breath work and stretch your body and eat right and just spend time in creation.
I recently covered for Willie Muhammad and spoke with student Minister Lawrence Muhammad on the legacy and impact of late great comedian Paul Mooney. So what did you think made Paul Mooney's style of comedy so relevant and timeless?
I think what made Paul Mooney stand out the most was his authenticity. Even though he dealt a lot with race, but you know it was coming from a sincere place. You knew that these were things that he himself has experienced. And so it's almost like music in a sense. You can tell when an artist is just singing something, or if they're actually singing something that resonates with them and you yourself can feel what they are feeling. Paul Mooney had the great ability as a storyteller to put you and I in his footsteps and to walk with him. And I believe that's the greatest thing about him. He was able to take you and I and put us in the moment to see what he was saying as he was saying it.
Lawrence Muhammad also discussed the denial of tenure to Nicole Hannah-Jones, journalist and creator of the Pulitzer Prize-winning The 1619 Project. So Mrs. Jones came under fire for the 1619 Project. There were efforts by Republican elected officials to cut funding from schools who included the project as part of the curriculum. Do you think the denial of tenure to her is a part of this backlash?
Well, yeah, of course it is. You know, to deny our sister the tenure that she so rightfully deserves, and that she was, it was voted in the affirmative by her colleagues. And from my understanding, in order to be tenured, you also have to have positive recommendations and reviews from other professors who are not even from the same university. Right. And she was also, and she is also a MacArthur, if I'm not mistaken, a MacArthur scholar. As they say, you have to be a genius in order to get the MacArthur.
On this week's I Have a Testimony, host Willie Muhammad spoke with jazz violinist Michael Ward about his personal experiences, musical background, and interactions with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
In my research, I began to start researching about you and your music. So can you share with the audience, when did your interest in the violin actually began? Because I know you started off with piano, right?
Yeah, it's a funny story with the violin. I come from a jazz family. My mother was a jazz and classical gospel singer. So when I was going to the 6th grade, she wanted me to learn how to read music, and she told me to take the orchestra class, and they would teach me how to read piano music. But when I got in the class, they didn't teach piano; it was all strings. So I decided I was going to go get in the band and play a saxophone or trumpet or something, and the band was full, and I had to stay in the orchestra. So I figured I'd just stay until I can get into the band. And my teacher said, you got to pick an instrument. And I just went eeny, meeny, mighty, mo and picked the violin. And I've been playing it ever since.
NMV reporter Naya Tai filled in for anchor Robert Muhammad and sat down with brother Kareem and sister Sabbath Muhammad to discuss successful Black marriages from a young couple's perspective.
So what was the intent of successful Black marriages?
The intent behind successful Black marriages, it was, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that there was an increase in divorces all over. It's a pandemic, just like the coronavirus. And so with that being said, not just in the Lost Farm community, but in the nation, and I wanted to aid in putting a cease to that. Because when you see people that are actually doing it, that are successful, that have been married for a long time and loving it, you want to know the keys to that success. Oftentimes we know the format of creating a wedding, we know what a wedding needs, we know the wedding planner, this and the other, we know all the elements to a wedding, but when we get into marriage, one can't say the same thing.
Real estate investor Brother Louis Ali spoke with me about land development, rebuilding Black communities, self-sufficiency, and separation. So when you say separation, what do you mean? What steps must we take to rebuild thriving communities and create generational wealth that pushes over to the next generation?
Well, the first step is we need a man. I can't say how much that man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, means to this movement. Let me say something about image. Image is how young Black boys have an imagination. And imagination is how we get a purpose and a will to do something and to be somebody special. And all of the masculine Black male images have just about been destroyed and so slandered that we don't pay any attention to them except the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so we want to separate so that we can do something for ourselves.
Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. Afterwards, Sister Nina Shabazz will speak with us about her research findings on historically Black beaches. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people, and upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Call now, 502-219-4848.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
The hashtag #BankBlack social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
Our weekly contributor, Sister Nina Shabazz, recently took a trip to Highland Beach, a well-known historical Black beach, and it led her to research some of the history and locations of the different Black beaches across America.
Charming New England cottages of Martha's Vineyard have been a summer getaway for the African American elite for more than 100 years. Drawn to the harbors of Oak Bluffs in the late 1800s, freed slaves and laborers began settling there. Charles Scherer, the son of a slave and her white owner, turned this cottage into the first inn for Black vacationers. Scherer's great-granddaughter, Lee Van Allen.
African Americans came to visit, and they were not able to stay at the homes. They were not welcome there because of segregation. So he saw a business opportunity, and he opened the inn, Scherer Cottage.
The cottage soon attracted the African American elite, including actor Paul Robeson, singer Ethel Waters, and composer Harry T. Burleigh.
So it really was the beginning of the expansion of the African American community on Martha's Vineyard.
Adam Clayton Powell Jr., one of the first African American congressmen, writer Dorothy West, and Ralph Meshack Coleman, considered the dean of Boston's Black Theater, purchased homes nearby. Today, they're featured along the island's African American Heritage Trail.
Joining us to discuss this is Sister Nina Shabazz. How you doing, sis?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Welcome back, man. We missed you last week. It's been a while.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yes. I'm excited to hear about your experience at Highland Beach, and then also, what you have discovered in your research with these historical beaches. So, what inspired you to research these historical beaches?
I was thinking about this movie called The Inkwell. I mean, it was probably early mid-90s, so it was quite a while ago, and it depicted young Black people frolicking on the beach, just enjoying themselves at Martha's Vineyard. And so I just started thinking like how we don't really have, that I know of, those kind of beaches. And I wanted to give my daughter like an experience like that over the summer, so she'll have, kind of these fun summer memories of a beach home or even a lake home and with her peers. And so that's kind of what led me on the journey to kind of start researching, historical Black beaches.
Okay. So, as you're going along, so Highland, I would have to say Highland Beach is a historically Black beach, correct?
It is. Highland Beach is in Maryland, and it was actually designed and built by Frederick Douglass and his son. And so there's a particular part, there's a landing on the second floor that leads from the bedroom. And I took some photos from the front porch, but the landing, they turned the house into a museum, but the landing, it overlooks the eastern shore. And so there's a plaque that shows basically Frederick Douglass wanting to see the eastern shore where he was once a slave, but now he's a free man and he stood on his own beach. So I thought that was pretty epic that, he, so much that he did, and, now he owned a beach. So that was pretty significant for me.
Wow, you owned a beach. That's definitely significant. You know,
Yes,
we
yes.
definitely can see myself owning a beach. I'm not gonna lie, I
Right,
love beaches.
right.
But
I
what
would
do you
love
think?
that one day, but the prices of things are pretty penny nowadays. But yeah, so that I thought that
Right,
was
right,
pretty
a pretty
significant.
penny.
Hmm.
I mean, what events led to these beaches becoming historically black?
Well, as you know, segregation is nothing new to us, and
Mhm,
blacks, just like anyone else, their white counterparts, they wanted some kind of rest and relaxation,
mhm,
and they weren't allowed at white beaches, and so essentially they carved out, like we had to do so many times throughout history, our own schools, our own neighborhoods, our own stores, and
mhm,
that sort of thing. We carved out of a heaven for ourselves, and where we didn't have to worry about getting in trouble for, you know, what do you call it, trespassing and
right.
that sort of thing. And so, let's see, I think it's called Oak Bluffs now. The clip that I showed you before it was called Oak Bluffs.
Mm,
And so essentially, the help of the whites, they weren't allowed to be on the beach. And
right.
so, they found places further down. They kind of put their flag in the sand, so to speak, and
Mhm,
created enclave and a heaven for themselves, which we've been instructed to do for the last
right.
80 years. And so, these are blueprints that we can use to carve out some R&R for ourselves.
Right. And so you said these are blueprints that we can use. So why do you feel it's important to revive the history for our people?
Well, as I've mentioned before, I'm an urban planner, and I
Mhm,
also do land development and consulting. And just meeting the mayor of that particular town and him talking about the history of, why it's so important. He and I both had a conversation of why it's so important to, preserve a legacy for ourselves. Because one of the things that he says that the beach, Highland Beach, which is a private beach, and so you can't come onto the beach unless you're a resident or you're a guest of the residents. And so he said it was really important because so often throughout history, our land was taken from us. Our,
mhm,
you know, neighborhoods were gentrified. And so they
mhm,
made a clear path for themselves. And the houses, most of the houses are actually still owned by the original descendants and had been passed down. And
mm,
there's like I believe there is a um kind of a covenant where
mm,
you have to either be um a descendant or you're highly vetted before you're able to purchase a piece of land in Highland Beach. And so I thought that was
mm.
remarkable.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. I have to take a trip up there myself. I want to see that. I want to see where we kind of still have some power and some control and ownership because that's important, especially being able, like you said, owning a beach isn't nothing that's just, oh yeah, I can go outside and just buy me a beach
Right,
real quick, you know. So
right.
to be able to still have ownership and control of that land and that property there, and then even be able to determine who can and can't move in. That way, it can't just be taken over again.
Right.
We could definitely say that's some good history to know because that just lets us know that we have the ability to do that again. We can replicate that again. And so
Absolutely.
you kind of touched on it a little bit, but are these beaches open to the public?
Some of them are. There's a beach in Florida called American Beach. That beach
Hmm.
is open to the public. However, there are no houses there. Highland Beach is not open to the public. Oak Bluffs is open to the public. That's part of Martha's Vineyard. But there is a historical side also that's almost been kind of created into a
Hmm.
museum, showing our legacy, for Martha's Vineyard. And
Hmm.
so some of the beaches are private, but I would just do my research ahead of time because we did get a rude awakening once we got there. We were like, oh, can't just pop our little blankets down and sit down, And
Right.
so, but the mayor was gracious enough to kind of explain to us, how things worked, and
Mhm.
just said it was important for them to have control of who came into their communities and that sort of thing. And so, if you're not a resident or a guest of one of the residents, then you will be politely asked in no uncertain terms to leave.
Absolutely. And so, you've been talking about these fantastic historically Black beaches, but can you give us some highlights? How did you feel? How was the ambiance as you were there taking your trip to Highland Beach?
It was very peaceful that particular day. And it's funny, we did run into someone who, they were walking towards the beach. And so we asked them, hey, this is our first time here. Can you tell us a little about it? And they said, this is our first time here too. So it's kind of blind leading the blind. But fortunately, once we stood on the porch of Frederick Douglass's home, the mayor, he pulled up in his golf cart and he asked, if there was anything that he could do to help us. And so yeah, we kind of started asking him, so, give us a little history of what the beach is like. And so he was gracious enough to explain to us, this was the first incorporated town in the United States, Black town that was incorporated in 1922. And so, and they had they were able to legislate everything they wanted in terms of, the covenants, selling the properties to descendants of, the original inhabitants. And so I thought that was really important, that they kept that history. And they said they made the decision to not allow commercial endeavors, not allow, this commercial entity or anything like that to pop up, because he said then that's when you start letting gentrification occur.
Absolutely. Man, we thank you. We thank you for joining us today, sister, and really giving us that information. It was some good insight. And like I said before, it really gives us insight on how we can replicate this and do for ourselves, gaining back ownership of these different areas and beaches and property, and implementing different policies so that we can make sure we keep control of that. So thank you again.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Thank you. You have a good night.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. When we return, we will interview musical artist and entrepreneur Aishah Kareem. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
There are many talented songwriters, composers, music publishers, and authors who are navigating the music business as independent artists. So tonight, joining us is classical pianist, songwriter, and entrepreneur, Aishah Kareem. Greetings, sister. How are you doing today?
Greetings. How are you? I'm great.
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for taking the time out to join us on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. We hear a lot. Well, I've done some research myself, and I've been seeing that, you're very, very talented at what you do. You're a classically trained pianist and singer. How long have you been playing the piano and performing where did you receive your classical training?
Thank you. First, thank you for that compliment. So I've been doing piano on and off since I was 15. I've been consistent the last 5 years. With singing, I've been singing since I was 9. I'm actually classically trained with voice and piano. That started when I was 15 as well. The lady that taught me classical piano, she's also the one that taught me classical singing. But I have a current vocal coach who she's classically trained herself, but we do contemporary and R&B.
Okay. So for those who may not really know the difference, what is classical pianist and classical singing compared to maybe some other genres?
Right. So classical is more of like Beethoven, Mozart, Bach. It's much more structured. A lot of people may say it's more like strict. That comes with playing and also singing. It's more traditional in regards to following like certain guidelines in music, whereas other contemporary genres such as R&B and pop and jazz, a lot of that has to do with improv, feeling, emotion. It's more, to me, it's more freeing, whereas classical can kind of be more restricted or just more like by the book. So everything's more precise.
Okay. So after breaking down, the differences between the genres, what are your favorite genres and styles, and who are some musical influences in your life?
Yeah. Even though I'm classically trained, R&B is my first love. Like, I'm crazy about R&B. I have an old soul. So my top 2 musical inspirations are Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston, hands down. I'm like probably a little too obsessed with them. But I'm also a huge fan of, because I'm a songwriter as well. So Smokey Robinson is my all-time favorite songwriter. I'm influenced by Janet Jackson, Jackson 5, some hip hop artists, Lauryn Hill, Tupac Shakur. I'm also a huge Beyonce fan. Grew up listening to Mariah Carey, a lot of R&B artists as well, like Escape, Brandy, Monica, just
Absolutely. Those are some notable artists there. I can definitely see why they could be of inspiration to you, because they are definitely an inspiration to me. And I'm not even, involved heavily in the music. I did a little bit of music. I played a little band when I was growing up.
Oh, what you play? What you play? I always got to ask you.
I was in percussion, so I did like the xylophone is the keyboard, the drums, just the percussion instruments in general. So, I'm not a professional, didn't go too far with it, but I dibbled and dabbled a little bit inside of some band instruments.
That's cool. Oh, did you notice Whitney Houston's on my shirt? As a matter of fact, I forgot I had her on my shirt.
She is on your shirt. Rest in peace to the legend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what inspired you? Because I saw on your page that you did a DMX. You recreated DMX's song, and it was phenomenal on the piano. Never heard it that way.
Thank you.
What inspired you to create the beautiful DMX piano medley? And what are the titles of a few other songs and music that you performed and written?
Thank you. Well, what inspired me, unfortunately, he just passed not too long ago. I've always been a fan of his music. One of my sisters is his biggest fan, like literally his biggest fan. My sister, Aishah Kareem, she actually met him with her back in 2007. And, even though I wasn't as big of a fan as he was still a part of my childhood, a lot of good memories. I was just as shocked and hurt by his passing as everybody else. And being as though I love music and I love playing, and I had already did like a series of previous piano medleys, I was like, I'll just do one with his. And of course, with her approval, I had to, let her look at it first, like, is this good? I need to get the approval from the number one fan. Yeah.
I guess that's actually, a good question there is, how do you get the approval of the music that you play or that you write? Like who is in your circle that tells you yay or nay to what it is that you want to put out?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm surrounded by people who ain't got no problem with keeping it real, telling you how it is. I'm surrounded by harsh critics. So I'll probably send a clip, because I have 3 sisters, so I'll send a clip to each of them. My vocal coach, because she's legendary in the Philadelphia area, but she's also real. So she's gonna, give me good feedback. And then my mom, she actually knows. She doesn't do it publicly, but she knows how to sing. Her father was a singer. She has perfect pitch, and she don't got no problem with telling me if it's not up to par.
Right. That's good. We need those who are going to keep it real with this, because I remember watching some like reality TV shows that dealt with singing, and then when some people trying out, I'd be like, no one told them that they couldn't sing. So
but good. A lot of that is for like shock value, because if you go there in person, you have to get to certain levels before you can even get to them. So it's like the ones that are bad, I think they kind of put them on there for like TV purposes.
Right. That is true. They probably do put those on there. Definitely like, nah, don't cut it out. We need that for the viewership.
Yeah.
So you spoke a lot about the different genres in the beginning, and you spoke on, your love for R&B and the different influences in your life, and you have a very diverse portfolio of influences and styles that pretty much, this to me seems like that makes you up your musical talents, however it makes you up. And so how'd you become so versatile as a pianist, a singer, composer, author, and music publisher?
Oh, well, thank you for that. I'm obsessed with music. It's literally my life. I guess I have to credit my mom for that. I can remember like 4 or 5 years old, her just playing like all kind of records, from her childhood and stuff. And like, I always had an old soul. So I just think I was, literally born to do this. Being versatile with different genres, that kind of happened by accident, because when I first got into classical training, I really didn't want to do it because I just only knew about R&B, and I didn't really understand the connection. And my classical teacher, R&B is actually her first love. And a lot of the people I liked, she liked, but I thought she was just pandering to me. I'm gonna be honest, I was one of her few Black students. So I just thought like, okay, she's just trying to say that to pander to me, until I actually got around her and seen the CDs and stuff. And then when she explained to me, a lot of the artists I listened to were classically trained themselves. And then when I would like go back and listen to Whitney and notice her mouth placement and certain stuff she would do, I'm like, oh, she is singing like a classical singer. And that's when I kind of fell in love with doing different genres and different styles.
Right. So what benefits come with being classically trained in whatever instrument or art that you get into?
Yeah, it's really a lot of great benefits. Classical singing prepares you to sing any kind of music because of the technique that it does. It works wonders. And even with classical playing, because it's such a strict and like really tedious style, then when you play other styles that are more freeing, you're kind of already like advanced.
Okay. Makes a lot more sense. That definitely, because like you said, it's emotion with the more freeing styles.
Right.
So if you're classically trained, I would assume that you know how to hit the right pitches and notes whenever you're feeling it in those moments. So that kind of moves me into my next question, because you're an independent songwriter, composer, pianist, music publisher, and author. So what advice do you give other musicians or singers who are attempting to learn the music business and navigate it as an independent artist?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would tell them, definitely learn the business side. It's imperative, especially with the climate that we're in now. The great thing is we have like Google, you have YouTube, you can literally YouTube like a music business class or a music business course. I would also say study, because everybody has somebody like look up to musically. So I would say don't just listen to their songs, listen to their interviews and study their route, like their journey. Because that's another thing I did. I would always look at documentaries and different like interviews with the artists that I looked up to. So I would listen to like not just the music side. I would also listen to what their take was on the business side. Another way you can learn about the business side, I actually have my book here where I actually wrote about tips and how to make it as an independent artist and how to basically control your own career and how that lines with doing for self and being an entrepreneur and how that all ties in.
Okay. And so, I would say, because you spoke about learning about the business side.
Yeah.
So just give the audience a quick study lesson, if you will. What's the first thing or the main thing they should really look into if they're starting out? Say, man, I'm trying to look into the business side of this music, but I don't really know where to start. Where should they start? That way they have a solid foundation.
Right. Publishing. So publishing is literally how you get paid. It's literally how you stop people from stealing your songs. It's literally when you hear about artists going through things with the labels and their catalog. All of that is about publishing. And then I would say copyright, because copyright and publishing, they go hand in hand. You can't do one without the other. And then sign up with a performing rights organization. That's either ASCAP or BMI, because you have to register as a songwriter with them first before you can even get your songs published. So it's like that's why I wrote a book on it, because it is a lot of steps to it. It's like a trickle down.
Oh wow! So you wrote a book. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the title of your book?
Oh, so it's called Mogul: Learning the Music Business as an Independent Artist. Written by myself, Aishah Kareem. And each chapter, it has a segment. So it has a chapter for publishing, then a chapter for royalties, a chapter for copyrights, song splits, how to sign up for a performing rights organization, because there are different fees involved and whatnot.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's important. So for those who are out there and they want to get into the music publishing industry, please check out our sister's book there, because that's going to give you a nice solid foundation of where to start on how, so that way you don't get, for lack of better words, screwed over in this music industry here. How do you balance everything? You do a lot. So how do you keep it all balanced?
I don't. I'm always on the go. I need to learn how to balance it better. But no, I'm kind of known for kind of being always on the go and running around and stuff. But I am trying to work on it, because that's not cool. I actually I kind of got a verbal beating from my vocal coach yesterday about wearing myself, spreading myself thin. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. Time management. That's not one of my strong suits either. Yeah. So me and you both are working on time management and keeping ourselves organized. Can people book you to perform at various events? And how can we contact you to purchase your works?
Absolutely. But they can book me, and they can also purchase my works on my site, which is askmpublishing.com. Or you can just hit me up on social media. My Instagram is Aishah Songstress, and I'm also on Facebook as Aishah Kareem.
Awesome. Thank you again, sister, for joining us tonight and giving us that wonderful information on music and the music industry. I'm sure a lot of people have enjoyed that tonight and definitely have found that information helpful.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have a great night.
You too.
Thank you. Let us pause for announcements from our sponsors. When we return, Greg McKenzie will give insight on the upcoming African Liberation Day and what it means to our community. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Classes begin September 1st. To enroll, visit AsiaticMinds.com.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
African Liberation Day is a day of commemoration and a time to reaffirm our commitment to freedom, Pan-Africanism, and total liberation of our people.
African Liberation Day, which is traditionally celebrated throughout the African world each May 25th, was the occasion this year for the largest all-black assembly ever held in Washington, D.C. More than 30,000 blacks, representing a wide cross-section of political ideologies, gathered at the culmination of a two-day conference on Africa. The underlying themes behind the conference and march were to heighten the awareness of blacks in this country to the plight of our brothers and sisters in Africa, to create some ongoing organization that would actively aid black freedom fighters in those African countries still under white colonial rule, to begin to link our future as a self-determined, free people with that of Africans, and to begin to act as a unified body of blacks who will influence U.S. policy towards Africa.
Joining us is Greg McKenzie, co-chair of the African Liberation Day Planning Committee. Peace, brother. How you doing today?
Peace. I'm well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yes, sir. So, what is African Liberation Day? What is the significance to the Pan-African movement?
African Liberation Day is a for us, by us holiday. It's basically an opportunity where we are re-identified with the struggle that we have in common as Africans, wherever we may be found around the world. And so it is, in essence, an opportunity for us to keep the pipeline between our heritage intact. Those are brothers and sisters of ours on the continent, brothers and sisters of ours in the diaspora, brothers and sisters of ours here in the United States and other places. Connect internationally, at least on that one day, to identify with our common struggle.
Wow. Yes, sir. That's definitely an important day. And thank you for coming so that you give us some more insight on that, because unity is definitely an important aspect that we need to adapt in our community. So what organizations are involved in this year's May 29th celebration in Detroit? Is this a continuation of the commemoration celebrated each year around the world on May 25th?
Yeah, so the celebration here in Detroit, I'll take the second part of the question first. The celebration here in Detroit is a continuation of what started originally as African Liberation Day and has been celebrated in an uninterrupted sequence since its inception. We're celebrating the 48th African Liberation Day here in Detroit this year. Last year was the first year, because of the global pandemic, where we actually didn't have any kind of a celebration. And that's the first time in history that we faced the odds and the situation that we faced in that instance. But prior to that, every year, the elders who come before me and our ancestors who come before me, who did what I'm doing now and with others, held and convened this very important celebration to deliver important information and critical inspiration.
Wow. Yes, sir. And so what organizations will be involved in this year's May 29th celebration?
So our organization, the African Liberation Day Planning Committee Detroit, is comprised of multiple organizations. There's over 40. To name a few, you have the Million Man Alumni Association, who has kept a tradition alive since the time they went to the Million Man March. They meet every Thursday, and they loan their meeting time on Thursdays during African Liberation Day season to the African Liberation Day Planning Committee. Other community organizations such as Al-Kibalan Village, Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, and countless others participate financially, as well as sharing their information and resources so we can produce the celebration.
Wow, that's beautiful, brother. That's a great example of unity coming together and producing something beautiful to help give a fantastic event to our people. How can African Liberation Day help us deepen our understanding of the struggles of our people around the world and strengthen our solidarity against oppression and tyranny?
It's a beautiful question. You know, the thing that's, there's so many things that have been done to us as an African people. But one of the things that's been done very well to us is this misinformation that we have about who each other are. And that goes for Africans in America in the various different boxes that we may find ourselves in, as well as Africans on the continent and throughout the diaspora. Brothers and sisters come here from other countries, and they're given information about Africans in America, and they say, avoid them. You don't want to get involved with Black Americans. And these types of divisive mechanisms are able to stand when we don't have an opportunity to talk with each other. But African Liberation Day gives us an opportunity to have these kind of conversations, to break down these misunderstandings of each other, replace it with factual understandings of who each other are, our differences and our similarities, how we can work together, how we ought to work separately when we should, and make us a more effective team toward liberation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful. So what is the environment like on this African Liberation Day?
So, unfortunately, this is the first year we're doing this virtual. And so I say unfortunately and fortunately, because we're moving into the new millennium. African Liberation Day, like I said, been doing this for 48 years in Detroit. Didn't even have a website prior to this year, but this year we've created a website. We're putting ourselves in a position to make this a virtual thing, whether we have a global pandemic or an opportunity to assemble in person or not. We'll have an opportunity to have a check-in with each other. And so generally it's a vibrant day, a 2-day event. We generally do it on the Friday before Memorial Day. And we have a keynote speaker. And then on that Saturday, we have like a whole day of just community edutainment. And so the environment is usually very lively, African drum, the feeling of community and family, folks who don't get a chance to see each other on a daily basis, having an opportunity to brush elbows and rub shoulders, and also to talk with people from all facets of the community, be it continental Africans, be it folks from different religious traditions, different cultural traditions. All of that's melted for the moment in time of African Liberation Day for us to talk about our common problems, our common struggle, and our common future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a wonderful event there. You spoke on edutainment, which stood out to me. So will there be any speakers or culturally relevant vendors at this year's celebration in Detroit?
Absolutely. So this year's theme is Get Free or Die Trying. That theme was inspired by the work of hip hop duo Dead Prez. And so Stickman from Dead Prez will be our keynote this year. He's going to bring a message of how that still resonates 20 plus years after the inception of that idea and the releasing of that musical material at that time, and then share with us, some things that he's observed from his vantage point, being able to travel internationally, having breakout success with the hip hop career, and parlaying that into health and wellness and being an author, and how we continue to struggle for our liberation and how actually living in our culture is liberation. So that's a little preview of what he's going to talk about. And then we got some local entertainment. Myself personally, I'm known as GMAC. My name is Greg McKenzie, but GMAC is the abbreviation. And so I do some hip hop and other things. I'm going to do some hip hop for African Liberation Day. Xavier Jack is going to perform some hip hop. We have a fashion show. We have youth martial arts, our Kibido Warriors martial arts team. Destin Ashaki is going to do some poetry. I mean, it's a bunch of stuff. Off the top of my head, those are some things I can think of quickly, but we have a full, probably 2.5 to 3 hour program.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. And man, thank you for giving us that information, because I'm sure there are a lot of people, unfortunately, who just never knew. And I guess, like you said before, it's an unfortunate but fortunate situation that, the COVID pandemic has forced you guys to do it virtually, because I would assume now it could reach more people, because now those who may not have had the means to travel can now attend this event and be exposed to this wonderful African Liberation Day event. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I agree wholeheartedly. And the key component to what we're doing is liberation through education. So our theme is Get Free or Die Trying, and the sub theme is food, clothing, and shelter. But every year, regardless of the main theme, the key thing for us is liberation through education. And so we raise money and we give scholarships out to graduating seniors in high school who are attending some institution of higher learning. And we want to make sure that we help support them, support us, because the best thing we can do is invest in the future by investing in our young people, and they come and bring relevant information back to the community so we can help empower the change that we're pushing.
Wow. What feeling do you get, after working African Liberation Day and working within the community? What feelings do you get every year after these events?
That's my drug. I'm addicted, you know.
Yes.
I enjoy community work. I remember the first time I gave out a plate at an event. A brother of mine, SUBCRIBE, was holding at his house, and he was feeding the people. And you know, people were in line. They were trying to take cuts. They're trying to get 2 and 3 plates. All these different things, right? Because so much oppression for so long creates a kind of morality that's diminished to some degree to where we really are as a people. But even in all of that, I could see the beauty in my people and the value in connecting with my people and doing something for them to be of assistance to them. So yeah, I get a great feeling every year.
That's beautiful, brother. How can we learn more about African Liberation Day, and how can we contact you and support your organization?
So African Liberation Day has a website this year in Detroit. It's www.alddetroit.org. Again, that's www.alddetroit.org. And right now it's in its coming soon phase of the web, but you can go to that website. You'll see the flyer. You'll see some other information about what time you can expect to see the program. The website will probably be live tomorrow, but for sure it'll be live on Saturday. But if you go check in there, all of the contact information you need to reach us is there. I'll give you all my email address if you need to reach me personally, and it's G McKenzie, and that's McKenziejr @yahoo.com. So that's G McKenzie Jr. @yahoo.com.
Wow. Thank you, brother, again for joining us tonight and taking the time out to give us some information and exposing us to this wonderful event from what it sounds like. And I have to give a salute to you, my brother, for, you know, doing the work that you're doing in the community, and everybody on the African Liberation Day Committee for taking the time out of their lives to really make sure that this event continues on, because this is important to our people. So thank you again, brother, for coming on tonight and giving us that information.
Thank you all for having me on the show, particularly brother Tariq X, who reached out to me. And this is a very first-class production. I like what you're doing and how you're doing it, so keep up the good work.
Thank you, brother. We do appreciate that a lot.
Yes, sir.
Sir, peace. Thank you for joining us today and tuning in to National Network View News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Tariq X with National Network View News. I wish you all peace, blessings, and good night.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.